Picture this. It's 1937, and America knows war is coming. The military leaders sit in their offices worried and sweating. They need something new, something deadly, something the world has never seen before. They call up Lockheed, a small airplane company in California, and give them an impossible challenge. Build us a fighter plane that can fly higher, faster, and farther than anything else in the sky. Oh, and you have 1 year to do it. Most companies would laugh and hang up the phone, but Lockheed's chief engineer, a genius named Clarence Kelly Johnson, just smiles. He's only 28 years old, but he's about to create a legend. Kelly gathers his team and they start drawing. They sketch and calculate and argue late into the night. Coffee cups pile up on their desks. Cigarette smoke fills the room, and slowly, something incredible takes shape on their blueprints. What emerges looks like nothing anyone has ever seen. 2 engines, 2 long tail booms stretching back like the prongs of a fork. A central pod for the pilot, sitting right in the middle. When other engineers see the design, they shake their heads. It'll never fly, they say. It's too weird, too complicated. Those twin engines will make it slow and clumsy. But Kelly Johnson knows better. He knows he's onto something special. On January 27, 1939, test pilot Ben Kelsey climbs into the first P-38 prototype. His hands grip the controls. His heart pounds in his chest. The twin Allison engines roar to life, and the sound is like thunder. The plane rolls down the runway faster and faster, and then it lifts into the California sky. It flies beautifully, like a bird that was born knowing how to soar. Ben Kelsey grins inside his oxygen mask. This thing is a monster. The P-38 Lightning is born, and it's unlike anything the world has seen. It has 2 engines, each producing over 1,000 horsepower. It can fly at 400 miles per hour, faster than almost anything else in the sky. It can climb to 40,000 feet, higher than most other fighters can reach, and it has a range of over 1,000 miles, meaning it can fly deep into enemy territory and still make it home. But the most terrifying thing about the P-38 is its weapons. In the nose of that central pod, Kelly Johnson packed 4 .50 caliber machine guns and 1 20mm cannon. All 5 guns point straight ahead, creating a cone of death that can tear enemy planes apart in seconds. When the first P-38s arrive in Europe, German pilots see them coming and they laugh. They radio to each other, making jokes about the American plane with 2 engines. "Look at that fat turkey," they say. "It's so big and slow, it'll be easy to shoot down." They call it names in German, mocking its unusual shape. Some German aces even brag about how many P-38s they're going to shoot down. They think their nimble Messerschmitts and Focke-Wulfs will dance circles around this American oddity. But then the fighting starts, and the laughter stops. German pilots quickly discover that the P-38 isn't slow at all. In fact, it's terrifyingly fast in a dive, reaching speeds over 500 miles per hour. They learn that those twin engines mean if one gets hit, the plane can still fly home on the other. They discover that the P-38 can climb higher than their fighters, swooping down from above like a hawk hunting mice. And they learn that when a P-38 pilot gets you in his sights, those 5 guns in the nose will shred your plane to pieces before you can blink. The Germans stop laughing. They stop mocking. Instead, they start running. German pilots begin to fear the distinctive silhouette of the P-38. They give it a new name, spoken with respect and terror: der Gabelschwanz-Teufel, the fork-tailed devil. When German pilots spot P-38s on the horizon, they warn each other over the radio. Some even refuse to engage, turning away and running for home rather than face the twin-engine terror. But the P-38's greatest moment, its most incredible achievement, hasn't happened yet. That story takes place thousands of miles away, in the jungles of the Pacific. It involves a secret code, a daring plan, and one of the most important men in the Japanese military. It's a mission so dangerous, so unlikely to succeed, that the pilots who volunteer know they might not come home. It's a mission that will prove once and for all that the P-38 Lightning isn't just another fighter plane. It's a weapon that can change the course of history. The date is April 18th, 1943. The target is Admiral Yamamoto, the mastermind behind Pearl Harbor, the man who brought America into World War II. And the only plane that can reach him, fight through his escorts, and make it home is the fork-tailed devil that everyone once mocked. This is where our story really begins. Admiral Yamamoto stands on the deck of his flagship, looking out at the Pacific Ocean. He's a small man, barely 5 feet tall, but everyone in the Japanese Navy fears and respects him. He's a genius, a warrior, and the most dangerous enemy America has. This man planned the attack on Pearl Harbor. This man sank American ships and killed thousands of American sailors. And now, in April 1943, this man is winning the war in the Pacific. Yamamoto isn't like other Japanese admirals. He's traveled the world, he studied at Harvard University in America, he lived in Washington, D.C. and walked the streets of American cities. He knows America's power, its factories, its determination. In fact, before the war started, Yamamoto told the Japanese government that attacking America was a terrible idea. "I can run wild for 6 months," he said. "But after that, I have no confidence." The Japanese leaders didn't listen. They ordered him to plan the attack anyway, and Yamamoto, being a loyal soldier, did exactly that. Now it's 1943, and Yamamoto's prediction is coming true. Those 6 months of running wild are over. America is fighting back hard. American factories are pumping out ships and planes faster than Japan can sink them. American soldiers are pushing Japanese forces back island by island. The tide is turning and Yamamoto knows it, but he's still dangerous. His brilliant tactics still win battles. His presence still inspires Japanese troops. As long as Yamamoto lives, Japan has a chance. American military leaders know this. They know that killing Yamamoto could shatter Japanese morale and change everything. There's just one problem. Yamamoto is always surrounded by guards, protected by the best fighters Japan has. He travels with an escort of deadly Zero fighters, and he moves from base to base unpredictably. Catching him is almost impossible. Killing him seems like a fantasy. But then something incredible happens. Something that will give America its chance. On April 14th, 1943, American codebreakers are hunched over their desks in a secret room in Pearl Harbor. These are the wizards who broke the Japanese military code, who can read enemy messages almost as fast as the Japanese themselves. They're sifting through decoded transmissions when suddenly one message makes them freeze. Their eyes go wide, their hands start shaking. They've just intercepted Yamamoto's travel schedule, the exact date, the exact time, the exact route he'll be flying. It's like finding a treasure map that shows where the enemy's greatest treasure will be. The message says Yamamoto will fly from Rabaul to Bougainville on April 18th, just 4 days away. He'll leave at 6 a.m. in a Mitsubishi G4M bomber, escorted by 6 Zero fighters. The flight path is specified down to the minute. He'll arrive at 9:45 a.m. at an airfield on Bougainville Island. This is the chance of a lifetime. This is the opening America has been waiting for. But can they take it? The decoded message goes straight to Admiral Chester Nimitz, commander of the Pacific Fleet. Nimitz reads it once, then reads it again. His mind races. This is it. This is the opportunity to cut off the head of the snake. But it's also incredibly risky. Bougainville is 400 miles from the nearest American base. The route goes deep into Japanese-held territory, over enemy islands crawling with Japanese soldiers and anti-aircraft guns. Any fighter plane trying to intercept Yamamoto will have to fly low to avoid radar, navigate perfectly over open ocean, arrive at exactly the right moment, fight through Zero escorts, and then make the long flight home with enemy planes chasing them. It's nearly impossible. Nimitz calls in his air commanders. "Can we do this?" he asks. They pull out maps and start measuring. Most American fighters don't have the range. The Corsair can't make it. The Wildcat can't make it. The Hellcat can't make it. There's only one plane in the American arsenal that can fly 400 miles, fight a battle, and fly 400 miles back. Only one plane with the range, the speed, and the firepower to pull off this mission. The P-38 Lightning. But there's another problem. If America shoots down Yamamoto, the Japanese will know their codes are broken. They'll change everything, and America will lose its greatest advantage in the war. Nimitz wrestles with this decision. Is killing one man worth losing the ability to read Japanese messages? He thinks about Pearl Harbor. He thinks about all the American sailors at the bottom of the ocean because of Yamamoto. He thinks about how many more will die if Yamamoto stays alive. Finally, Nimitz makes his choice. "Do it," he says. "Kill him." The message goes out to Guadalcanal, where the 339th Fighter Squadron is based. These men fly P-38 Lightnings, and they're the best pilots America has in the South Pacific. Major John Mitchell gets the orders and gathers his pilots. He doesn't tell them who the target is at first. He just says, "We're going on a long mission, deep into enemy territory. It's going to be dangerous." The pilots look at each other and nod. They're ready. Then Mitchell tells them the truth. They're going to kill Admiral Yamamoto. The room goes silent. Then one pilot grins and says, "Let's go get that son of a bitch." Major John Mitchell spreads the map across the table and stares at it like it's a puzzle designed to kill him. Guadalcanal to Bougainville. 435 miles of open ocean, enemy islands, and Japanese territory. His P-38 Lightning can make the distance, barely, but everything has to be perfect. One wrong turn means they run out of fuel over the ocean. 1 minute too early or too late means they miss Yamamoto completely. And if the Japanese spot them coming, the whole mission dies before it starts. Mitchell is 33 years old, a Texan with ice water in his veins. He's not the most skilled pilot in the squadron, but he's the best planner. His mind works like a calculator, figuring angles and distances and fuel consumption. He knows that this mission will be the most precise flying anyone has ever attempted. They need to cover 435 miles, flying just 50 feet above the ocean to avoid Japanese radar, hit their target at exactly 9:35 a.m., and still have enough fuel to make it home. No room for error, no second chances. Mitchell picks 18 pilots for the mission. 16 P-38s will make the flight. His hand moves across the roster, selecting names. Tom Lanfear, a hotshot pilot who never stops talking about his kills. Rex Barber, quiet and deadly, one of the best shots in the squadron. Besby Holmes, built like a football player, afraid of nothing. Jim McClanahan, the navigator, who can read the ocean like a map. Mitchell splits them into 2 groups. 4 planes will be the killer flight, hunting Yamamoto's bomber. The other 12 will fly high cover, keeping the Zero escorts busy. Simple plan, brutal execution. But there's a massive problem, and it's sitting in the fuel tanks. The P-38's internal tanks hold enough fuel for about 5 hours of flying. This mission will take at least 5.5 hours, probably more if they have to fight. Mitchell does the math over and over, hoping the numbers will change. They don't. The planes will run dry before reaching home. Then someone mentions the drop tanks, the external fuel tanks that can be bolted under the wings. Each P-38 can carry 265-gallon drop tanks, giving them the extra fuel they need. There's just one problem. The 339th Squadron doesn't have enough drop tanks. Mitchell sends urgent messages up the chain of command. Need drop tanks immediately. Mission cannot proceed without them. The request bounces from base to base, growing more desperate each time. Finally, the Navy finds some drop tanks on a carrier and flies them to Guadalcanal. The ground crews work through the night, bolting them onto the P-38s, checking every connection, testing every seal. 1 leak means 1 dead pilot. 1 loose bolt means 1 plane falling into the ocean. The mechanics work with flashlights clenched between their teeth, their hands black with grease and oil. By dawn, all 16 P-38s are ready. Now comes the hardest part: navigation. In 1943, there's no GPS, no satellites, no computers, just a compass, a watch, and a pilot's skill. Mitchell and McClanahan huddle over charts, plotting the route with rulers and pencils. They can't fly straight to Bougainville because Japanese radar stations will spot them. Instead, they plot a dogleg route, heading southwest first, then turning northwest to come at Bougainville from an unexpected angle. The whole flight path has to be flown at exactly 200 miles per hour to hit their timing window. Too fast and they arrive early, missing Yamamoto. Too slow and they arrive late, missing Yamamoto. McClanahan marks tiny corrections on the chart, adjusting for wind speed and ocean currents they can only guess at. The mission briefing happens at 5:01 a.m. on April 18th. The pilots file into the tent, rubbing sleep from their eyes, drinking bitter coffee from metal cups. Mitchell stands at the front with the map behind him. "Gentlemen," he says, "we're going to kill Admiral Yamamoto." The tent erupts. Pilots are shouting, pumping fists, slapping each other on the back. Mitchell waits for silence, then continues. "This is going to be the longest fighter mission ever attempted. We'll be flying over 800 miles round trip, most of it over enemy territory. We'll be flying at wave-top level to avoid radar. If anyone has engine trouble, you turn back immediately. We can't stop to help. If you go down, you're on your own." He points to the map, tracing the route with his finger. We take off at 7 a.m. We fly at 50 feet above the water, radio silence, no braking formation. We hit the interception point at exactly 9:35 a.m. Lanfear, Barber, Holmes and Moore, you four go for the bombers, everyone else engages the Zeros. We kill Yamamoto, then we run for home. Questions? A young pilot raises his hand. What if we miss him? Mitchell's face hardens. We don't miss. This is our one shot, we take it. The pilots walk out to their planes as the sun rises over Guadalcanal. 16 P-38. Lightnings sit on the runway, their twin engines gleaming in the morning light, their drop tanks full of fuel. The ground crews have painted shark teeth on some of the noses, making the planes look like predators, which is exactly what they are. Predators about to hunt the biggest prey in the Pacific. The pilots climb into their cockpits, strap themselves in, pull on their helmets. The engines cough, sputter, then roar to life. 32 Allison engines thundering together, shaking the ground, announcing that death is about to take flight. Mitchell checks his watch. 7 a.m. exactly. He gives the signal. One by one, the P-38s roll down the runway and lift into the air. They form up over the island, 16 silver crosses against the blue sky, then turn southwest and drop down until they're skimming just above the waves. Radio silence. No talking. Just the roar of engines and the spray of ocean mist on their windscreens. They're committed now. No turning back. Ahead lies 435 miles of ocean, an enemy convoy, and a date with the man who started this war. History is about to be written in the sky. The 16 P-38 Lightnings fly so low that the pilots can see individual waves below them. 50 feet above the Pacific Ocean, maybe less. If anyone makes one mistake, one tiny error, they'll slam into the water at 200 miles per hour and explode in a cloud of spray and metal. But flying this low is the only way to stay invisible. Japanese radar can't see them down here, hidden in the clutter of the ocean surface. The pilots grip their controls, eyes locked forward, watching the endless blue rushing beneath them. Major John Mitchell leads the formation, checking his compass every few seconds. They're flying on pure navigation, dead reckoning they call it, because if you get it wrong, you're dead. There are no landmarks out here, just water in every direction. Mitchell counts the minutes, calculates the wind drift, makes tiny corrections to keep them on course. Behind him, 15 other pilots follow in tight formation, trusting their lives to Mitchell's math and McClanahan's navigation. They've been flying for 30 minutes now, still 400 miles to go. The sun climbs higher, turning the cockpits into ovens. The pilots sweat through their flight suits, but they don't dare climb for cooler air. Stay low, stay invisible, stay alive. Some pilots glance at their fuel gauges and feel their stomachs tighten. The needles are already dropping toward the halfway mark and they haven't even reached the target yet. This is going to be close, dangerously close. But they push those thoughts away and focus on formation flying. Can't think about running out of fuel, can't think about sharks in the water below. Can't think about anything except staying on Mitchell's wing. An hour passes, then another. The pilots' necks ache from constantly scanning the sky for enemy planes. Their hands cramp from gripping the controls. The engine noise is so loud it makes their heads pound, even through their helmets. This is what nobody talks about when they tell war stories. The grinding, exhausting, terrifying boredom of a long combat mission. Hours of tension and fear, knowing that at any second everything could go wrong. Then Jim McClanahan, the navigator, spots something on the horizon. A dark smudge against the sky. An island. He checks his charts, checks his watch, checks their position. His heart leaps. That's Bougainville. They're right on target. Perfect navigation after flying 400 miles over open ocean with nothing but a compass and a clock. McClanahan wants to shout with joy, but radio silence. He just gives Mitchell a thumbs up and points. Mitchell checks his watch. 9:33 a.m. They're 2 minutes early. Perfect. He signals the formation to spread out, preparing for combat. The killer flight drops lower, barely 30 feet above the water now. The cover flight climbs to 15,000 feet, ready to jump any Zeros that appear. Every pilot's finger moves to the trigger. Safety's off, guns armed, hearts pounding. This is it. 4 years of training, 6 months of combat, all coming down to the next few minutes. Then they see them, 2 tiny dots in the sky heading straight toward them. Bombers. Mitchell's breath catches. That's Yamamoto. Has to be. The timing is perfect. The location is perfect. They actually found him. But where are the Zeros? The briefing said 6 Zero escorts. Mitchell's eyes scan the sky frantically, searching for the fighters that must be somewhere nearby. There, higher up, 6 more dots gleaming in the sunlight. The Zeros are flying top cover 1,500 feet above the bombers, exactly like the intelligence said. Doug Canning, one of the pilots, can't believe what he's seeing. The Japanese are flying straight and level, no evasive maneuvers, no awareness that death is screaming toward them at 300 miles per hour. They have no idea the Americans are here. They think they're safe this deep in Japanese territory. They think no American fighter can reach them. They're wrong. Canning's hands tighten on his controls. The fork-tailed devil can reach anywhere. Tom Lanfear breaks radio silence, shouting into his microphone. "Bogies! 10 o'clock high!" The Zeros have spotted them. The Japanese fighters roll over and dive, streaking down toward the American planes, but they're too far away. They won't reach the bombers in time. Lanfear, Barber, Holmes, and Moore, the killer flight, punch their throttles forward and climb toward the 2 bombers. The lead bomber is dark green, slightly ahead of the other. That has to be Yamamoto's plane. The Japanese admiral always flies in the lead. The Zeros are screaming down now, their machine guns already firing, tracers making bright lines in the sky. The American cover flight turns to meet them, and suddenly the air above Bougainville becomes a furious dogfight. P-38s and Zeros twisting and turning, guns blazing, planes trying to kill each other at 400 miles per hour. But Lanfear and Barber ignore the dogfight. They have eyes only for that lead bomber. The bomber pilots see the P-38s coming and they panic. The lead bomber, Yamamoto's plane, breaks left and dives for the jungle, trying to escape. But there's nowhere to hide. Rex Barber chases it down, his P-38 closing the distance like a shark chasing a wounded fish. He gets within 100 yards, lines up his shot, and presses the trigger. 4 50 caliber machine guns and 1 20mm cannon erupt simultaneously. The nose of his P-38 lights up with muzzle flashes. Shells and bullets pour into the bomber in a devastating stream. The bomber's right engine explodes in flames. The right wing starts to come apart, pieces of metal tearing off and tumbling away, but the plane keeps flying, keeps trying to escape. Barber fires again, another long burst, and this time the bomber's tail section disintegrates. The plane rolls over and falls into the jungle, smashing through the trees and exploding in a massive fireball. Black smoke boils up into the sky. Admiral Yamamoto, the man who planned Pearl Harbor, is dead. The mission is complete. Now they just have to survive the flight home. The sky above Bougainville is complete chaos. Japanese Zeros and American P-38s are locked in a spinning, twisting, deadly dance of death. Tracers crisscross the air like lethal fireworks. Planes dive and climb and roll, each pilot trying to get on the enemy's tail for that perfect 3-second shot. The roar of engines mixes with the rattle of machine guns. This is aerial combat at its most brutal and desperate. Rex Barber pulls hard on his stick, yanking his P-38 away from the burning wreckage of Yamamoto's bomber. He just killed the most important Japanese admiral in the Pacific, but there's no time to celebrate. A Zero is on his tail, its guns spitting bullets that crack past his canopy. Barber throws his plane into a violent turn, using the P-38's twin engines to outmuscle the lighter Japanese fighter. The Zero tries to follow but can't match the turn. Barber reverses, gets behind the Zero, and fires. The Zero comes apart in midair, pieces spinning down into the jungle below. Tom Lanfear is chasing the second bomber, which is running for its life toward the coastline. This bomber carries Yamamoto's chief of staff and other high-ranking officers. Lanfear's P-38 is faster, much faster, and he closes the gap in seconds. His finger tightens on the trigger, but before he can fire, 3 Zeros drop out of the sun and attack him from above. Lanfear has to break off, rolling away from their guns, and the bomber escapes over the ocean. Lanfear curses inside his oxygen mask. He wanted both bombers, but staying to chase it means certain death. 3 Zeros against 1 P-38. Time to run. The radio explodes with voices. Pilots shouting warnings and calling out enemy positions. 0 on your 6. Brake right. I'm hit. Get him off me. Mitchell, still leading the cover flight, is fighting his own battle with two Zeros that won't leave him alone. His P-38 is faster in a straight line, but the Zeros are more manoeuvrable. They can turn inside him, following his every move. Mitchell uses his speed, accelerating away from them, then turning back to attack from an unexpected angle. One Zero makes a mistake, turning too hard and bleeding off speed. Mitchell pounces. His guns hammer out a burst that catches the Zero in the engine. The Japanese plane trails smoke and spirals down. Besby Holmes sees a Zero latched onto another P-38's tail. The American plane is twisting and turning, but the Zero pilot is skilled, staying right behind him, getting ready for the kill shot. Holmes dives, building speed until his P-38 is screaming through the air at over 400 miles per hour. He comes in from the side, leading the Zero perfectly, and fires. The convergence of his 5 guns catches the Zero directly in the cockpit. The Japanese plane disintegrates, just comes apart in a cloud of debris. The American pilot rocks his wings in thanks and dives for the deck, but the Japanese aren't giving up. More Zeros are arriving from nearby bases, drawn by the radio calls for help. The sky is filling with enemy fighters, and the Americans are running low on ammunition and fuel. Mitchell makes the call everyone has been dreading. Break off, head for home. The P-38s immediately turn south and dive for the ocean, using their superior speed to escape. The Zeros chase them, but the P-38s are pulling away, their twin engines roaring at full power. The Americans drop down to wave-top level again, flying so low that spray splashes against their windscreens. The Zeros try to follow, but this kind of low-level flying is incredibly dangerous, and several Japanese pilots pull up rather than risk it. A few brave Zeros stay with the chase, firing long bursts that mostly miss. One P-38 takes hits in the wing, but the tough plane keeps flying. Another has his drop tank shot off, and he immediately calculates whether he has enough fuel to make it home. The math is grim, but he keeps going anyway. What choice does he have? The dogfight spreads out over 50 miles of ocean. Individual battles break out as P-38s and Zeros separate from the main group. Lieutenant Hine finds himself alone with 2 Zeros on his tail. They're gaining on him, and he knows his P-38 can't outturn them. So he does something crazy. He cuts his throttle and pops his speed brakes, slowing down dramatically. The Zeros, going much faster, shoot past him. Hine immediately accelerates and gets behind one of them. His guns flash, and the Zero goes down, smoking. The second Zero wisely breaks off and runs for home. Raymond Hine isn't so lucky. His P-38 takes multiple hits from a Zero that catches him by surprise. His right engine explodes, trailing fire and smoke. The plane shudders and starts to lose altitude. Hine fights the controls, trying to keep it in the air, but the damage is too severe. He radios, "I'm going in," and points the nose toward the ocean. The other pilots watch helplessly as his P-38 hits the water and disappears in a fountain of spray. No parachute, no survival raft, just gone. The ocean swallows him, and the war moves on. The remaining P-38s keep running south, their fuel gauges showing nearly empty tanks. Every pilot is doing calculations in their head, measuring remaining fuel against distance to Guadalcanal. It's going to be incredibly close. Some won't make it. They know this, but they keep flying anyway, nursing their engines, adjusting mixture settings to squeeze every possible mile from their remaining fuel. The Zeros eventually give up the chase and turn back. The Americans are alone again, racing against empty tanks in the setting sun. Mitchell does a head count over the radio. 14 P-38s respond. They lost 2 planes. Hine went down, and another pilot had to ditch in the ocean when his fuel ran out 100 miles from Guadalcanal. The Navy will send rescue boats to search for him, but the odds aren't good. Still, they killed Yamamoto. They actually did it. The impossible mission succeeded. Mitchell allows himself a tight smile. They poked the fork-tailed devil right into the heart of the Japanese beast and lived to tell about it. The 14 surviving P-38 Lightnings limp back to Guadalcanal, with fuel tanks reading empty. One by one they drop out of formation as their engines sputter and die, gliding down to crash landings on beaches or ditching in the ocean near friendly islands. The Navy rescue boats are already racing to find them. Mitchell's plane is running on fumes, the engines coughing and threatening to quit. He can see Guadalcanal ahead, the runway like a thin line of hope. He's not going to make it. He knows he's not going to make it, but then miraculously the wheels touch down. He rolls to a stop and both engines die the instant he hits the brakes. 30 seconds more and he would have crashed in the jungle, The pilots climb out of their cockpits, legs shaking from 6 hours of flying, hands cramped from gripping the controls, faces marked with the imprint of oxygen masks. They're exhausted, drained, running on pure adrenaline. Ground crews rush over to check the planes, and they find bullet holes everywhere. Some P-38s have over 50 hits. One has a hole in the wing big enough to stick your head through. It's a miracle any of them made it back. The crew chiefs shake their heads in wonder. These fork-tailed devils are tough. Mitchell gathers his pilots and counts them again. 12 made it back to Guadalcanal. One ditched near a friendly island and was rescued. One went down over Bougainville and is missing, presumed dead. Out of 18 pilots who started this mission, 17 survived. Not bad. Not bad at all, considering they just flew the longest fighter interception in history, deep into enemy territory, and Yamamoto is dead. The mission is a complete success. But then something strange happens. The intelligence officers arrive and tell them something shocking. You cannot tell anyone what happened today. This mission is top secret, classified at the highest level. If you talk about it, you'll be court-martialed. The pilots are confused and angry. They just pulled off the most incredible mission of the war, and they can't even tell people about it. Why the secrecy? The reason is simple and terrifying. If the Japanese learn that America intercepted Yamamoto's flight schedule, they'll know their codes are broken. They'll change all their codes immediately, and America will lose the ability to read Japanese messages. The code-breaking operation at Pearl Harbor is one of America's greatest weapons in the Pacific War. It lets American commanders know where Japanese ships and planes will be before they arrive. It saves thousands of American lives, revealing that the codes are broken. Even to kill Yamamoto could cost America the war. So the victory stays secret. The pilots are told to tell people they shot down 2 bombers during a routine patrol. Nothing special, nothing unusual, just another day fighting in the South Pacific. Don't mention Yamamoto, don't mention the interception, don't mention the mission at all. The pilots agree, but it burns them inside. They want the world to know what they did. They want the glory and recognition they deserve. But war doesn't care about glory. War cares about winning. Meanwhile, deep in the jungles of Bougainville, Japanese search teams are hacking through the dense undergrowth, looking for the crashed bombers. They find Yamamoto's plane first, the wreckage scattered over a wide area, trees snapped and broken where it ploughed through. They find bodies, some thrown clear of the crash, some still strapped into their seats. And then they find him, Admiral Yamamoto, still sitting upright in his seat, his hand gripping his samurai sword. He's been shot twice, once in the shoulder and once in the jaw. The second bullet killed him instantly. The man who planned Pearl Harbor, who brought America into World War II, is dead. The Japanese are devastated. They can't believe it. Yamamoto was supposed to be invincible, untouchable. He was the greatest naval mind in Japan, the admiral who never lost. But now he's dead, killed in the jungle by American fighters that appeared out of nowhere. The Japanese military keeps his death secret for weeks, trying to figure out how it happened. Did someone betray Yamamoto's schedule? Was it just bad luck? They never figure out that America broke their codes. They never realize that the mission was a perfectly planned assassination. When the Japanese finally announce Yamamoto's death, they claim he died in combat while directing operations. They give him a state funeral with full military honors. Thousands of people line the streets of Tokyo to watch his funeral procession. The emperor himself sends condolences. Yamamoto is cremated and his ashes are divided, half buried at sea and half in a Tokyo cemetery. Japan mourns its fallen hero, never knowing that he was hunted down and killed by American intelligence and American pilots flying American-made P-38 Lightnings. In America, the news of Yamamoto's death is released carefully, with no mention of how he died. The newspapers report that the architect of Pearl Harbor has been killed, and Americans celebrate in the streets. But the pilots who actually killed him still can't talk about it. They sit in their tents on Guadalcanal, reading newspapers that describe Yamamoto dying in a naval battle or being shot down by random fighters, and they have to bite their tongues. They know the truth, but the truth must stay hidden. The secrecy lasts for months, then years. The war ends in 1945, and still the pilots can't talk about the mission. Finally, in 1960, 17 years after the mission, the story is declassified. By then, some of the pilots have died. Others have spent nearly 2 decades keeping the biggest secret of their lives. When they're finally allowed to tell the story, they're old men, talking about something they did when they were young warriors. The world listens in amazement to the tale of the longest fighter interception ever attempted, the perfect navigation, the deadly combat, and the assassination of Japan's greatest admiral. But there's one more secret about that mission, one that creates controversy even today. Who actually shot down Yamamoto? 2 pilots claim credit. Tom Lanphier says he did it. Rex Barber says he did it. Both men file reports describing how they killed the lead bomber. Both men receive credit for the victory, but only one plane actually destroyed Yamamoto's bomber, and the truth of who fired the killing shots remains disputed. Some evidence suggests it was Barber, some suggests it was Lanphier. The mystery may never be solved, but really it doesn't matter. 18 pilots flew that mission. 18 pilots risked their lives. They all deserve credit for killing Yamamoto. The P-38 Lightning delivered the vengeance America wanted, and that's what counts. After Yamamoto's death, the P-38 Lightning's reputation explodes across both theatres of war. In Europe and the Pacific, enemy pilots learn to fear the distinctive twin-boom silhouette. The fork-tailed devil is everywhere, hunting bombers, strafing ground targets, escorting Allied bombers deep into enemy territory. German and Japanese pilots who once mocked its unusual design now avoid it when they can, and when they can't avoid it, they die. In Europe, the Luftwaffe quickly discovers that their early mockery of the P-38 was a deadly mistake. German fighter pilots find that the Lightning has advantages their planes simply cannot match. The twin-engine design they laughed at turns out to be brilliant. When a German fighter takes damage to its single engine, the pilot has 2 choices: land immediately or die. But when a P-38 loses an engine, it can fly home on the other one. Countless American pilots limp back to base with one dead engine, landing safely while German pilots with similar damage spiral into the ground. The Germans also learn that the P-38's speed is terrifying. In level flight, the Lightning isn't much faster than a Messerschmitt Bf-109 or Focke-Wulf FW-190. But in a dive, nothing can catch it. The P-38 can dive at over 500 miles per hour, faster than any German fighter can safely fly. German pilots trying to chase a diving P-38 either give up or push their planes too hard and tear the wings off. The Lightning simply accelerates away from danger, leaving frustrated German pilots behind. But what really makes German pilots fear the P-38 is those 5 guns in the nose. Every other fighter scatters its guns across the wings, which means the bullets spread out as they travel. The pilot has to get close and aim carefully to hit anything. But the P-38's guns are all clustered together in the nose, all pointing the same direction. When a P-38 pilot fires, all 5 weapons converge their fire on a single point. The result is devastating. A 1-second burst from a P-38 puts more bullets and shells on target than a 3-second burst from a German fighter. German pilots learn quickly that if a P-38 gets on their tail, they have about 2 seconds to escape before they're shredded. The most successful American ace in history flies a P-38. His name is Richard Bong, a baby-faced farm kid from Wisconsin who becomes an absolute killer in the cockpit. Bong shoots down 40 Japanese planes, more than any other American pilot in any war. He flies a P-38 named Marge after his girlfriend, and Japanese pilots learn to recognize his plane and run when they see it. Bong has an almost supernatural ability to sneak up on enemy planes, get close, and destroy them with short, precise bursts. He's awarded the Medal of Honor, and when he returns to America, he's a national hero. Another P-38 ace, Thomas Maguire, shoots down 38 Japanese planes before being killed in combat. Charles MacDonald gets 27 kills, Gerald Johnson gets 22. The list goes on and on. The P-38 produces more aces than almost any other American fighter, and these men become legends. They appear in newsreels and magazines, and American kids plaster their walls with photos of P-38s. The fork-tailed devil becomes the symbol of American air power, but the P-38 isn't just a fighter. It's also one of the best ground attack planes of the war. The Americans strap bombs and rockets under the wings, turning the Lightning into a deadly tank killer and bomber destroyer. P-38s swoop down on German tank columns, their guns and rockets tearing through armour like paper. They attack German airfields, destroying planes on the ground before they can take off. They shoot up trains and trucks and supply depots, crippling the German war machine. One of the most famous P-38 missions happens on D-Day, June 6, 1944. While thousands of Allied soldiers are landing on the beaches of Normandy, P-38s are flying cover overhead, keeping German fighters away from the invasion fleet. They also fly reconnaissance missions, taking photos of German positions so Allied commanders know where to send their troops. And they attack German reinforcements trying to reach the beaches, shooting up columns of tanks and trucks. The P-38s are everywhere on D-Day, and German soldiers learn to hate the sound of those twin engines. But perhaps the most incredible thing the P-38 does in Europe is hunt V-1 flying bombs. These are Hitler's revenge weapons, primitive cruise missiles that Germany launches at England. The V-1s fly at over 400 miles per hour, making them almost impossible to shoot down. British fighters struggle to catch them, but the P-38, with its superior speed, can chase down the V-1s and destroy them before they reach London. P-38 pilots develop a special technique where they fly alongside the V-1, tip it over with their wingtip, and send it crashing into the English Channel. It's incredibly dangerous, flying that close to a bomb carrying 2,000 pounds of explosives. But the P-38 pilots do it anyway, saving countless British lives. The Germans develop a grudging respect for the P-38. They know it's a dangerous opponent, flown by skilled pilots, armed with devastating weapons. The Luftwaffe issues tactical manuals specifically about fighting the Lightning, warning pilots about its strengths and weaknesses. Don't try to outdive it. Don't let it get on your tail. Don't underestimate it. The plane they once mocked has become one of their most feared enemies. In the Pacific, Japanese pilots have similar experiences. They quickly learn that the Zero, their legendary fighter, cannot compete with the P-38 in a straight fight. The Zero is more maneuverable, but the Lightning is faster, tougher, and more heavily armed. American pilots develop tactics that use the P-38's strengths. They stay fast, hit hard, and never get into turning dogfights where the Zero has the advantage. Boom and zoom, they call it. Dive on the enemy, shoot, then climb away using superior speed and power. Japanese pilots cannot counter this tactic effectively. The fork-tailed devil that everyone once mocked has become the hunter that no one can escape. The P-38 Lightning proves that unconventional design, when done right, beats conventional wisdom every time. Kelly Johnson's weird twin-engine fighter, the plane that skeptics said would never work, becomes one of the most successful and feared aircraft of World War II. And it all started because some young engineers dared to think differently. When World War II ends in 1945, over 10,000 P-38 Lightnings have been built. They've flown in every theatre of the war, from the frozen skies over Alaska to the burning deserts of North Africa. They've shot down more Japanese aircraft than any other American fighter. They've destroyed countless tanks, trains and trucks. They've escorted bombers deep into Germany and brought them home safely. The P-38 Lightning has done everything asked of it and more. But when peace comes, the Lightning's war is over. The military doesn't need thousands of fighters anymore, and newer jets are already being tested. The P-38 is obsolete almost overnight, replaced by faster, more modern aircraft. Most of the Lightnings are scrapped, cut apart for metal, turned into pots and pans and refrigerators. It's a sad end for the fork-tailed devil. But that's what happens to weapons when the war ends. A few P-38s survive in museums, preserved as examples of American ingenuity and courage. But most disappear, forgotten by a nation eager to move past the war. The pilots who flew the Lightning never forget it, though. For the rest of their lives, they talk about the P-38 with affection and respect. They remember how it brought them home when they were damaged, how it climbed higher and flew faster than anything the enemy had, how those 5 guns in the nose could tear apart any target. At reunions and air shows, old men in their 80s and 90s stand next to restored P-38s with tears in their eyes, remembering when they were young warriors flying the fork-tailed devil into combat. Richard Bong, America's top ace, sadly doesn't live to see old age. In August 1945, just days before Japan surrenders, Bong is killed testing a new jet fighter in California. His P-38, Marge, is retired to a museum, where it still sits today, a reminder of the baby-faced farm kid who became America's deadliest fighter pilot. When Bong dies, the entire nation mourns. He's only 24 years old. The Yamamoto mission remains legendary. Historians study it as an example of perfect planning, precise execution, and incredible courage. Military strategists analyse it in war colleges, teaching young officers about the importance of intelligence, timing, and bold action. The mission proves that with the right information and the right tools, a small group of determined people can change the course of history. 18 pilots in 16 P-38s flew 800 miles over enemy territory and killed the most important Japanese admiral in the Pacific. That's not just a military victory, that's poetry. Kelly Johnson, the genius who designed the P-38, goes on to create even more incredible aircraft. He designs the U-2 spy plane, the SR-71 Blackbird, and the F-117 stealth fighter. He becomes one of the most famous aircraft designers in history, and when people ask him about his greatest achievement, he often mentions the P-38. "It was my first big success," he says. "It proved that radical design could work if you did the engineering right." Johnson dies in 1990 at age 80, honoured and respected throughout the aviation world. The P-38's influence extends far beyond World War II. Its twin-boom design inspires other aircraft, including modern drones and experimental planes. Its centre-pod configuration, with the pilot sitting between two engines, is copied by several post-war aircraft designs. Even today, engineers study the P-38 when designing new planes, learning from the solutions Kelly Johnson invented 80 years ago. Some P-38s keep flying long after the war. A few are converted to civilian air races, their guns removed, their engines modified for even more speed. They race across the Nevada desert at the National Championship air races, screaming past crowds at over 500 miles per hour. Other P-38s are used for aerial photography, mapping remote parts of the world. A handful are carefully restored and kept airworthy by passionate collectors who want to keep the Lightning's legacy alive. Today, only a few dozen P-38 Lightnings still exist. Most are in museums, static displays that children can touch and dream about. But about 10 are still flying, maintained by dedicated crews who spend countless hours and hundreds of thousands of dollars keeping these 80-year-old machines in the air. At air shows around the world, crowds gather to watch a P-38 take off, its twin engines roaring, its distinctive silhouette unmistakable against the sky. When the Lightning flies overhead, old men who served in World War II stand and salute, remembering the fork-tailed devil that helped win the war. The P-38's story teaches us several important lessons. First, don't dismiss unconventional ideas just because they look weird or different. The P-38 looked strange, but it worked brilliantly. Second, the right tool for the right job can change everything. Only the P-38 could reach Yamamoto, and having that capability at the right moment changed history. Third, courage and skill matter, but so do good design and engineering. The bravest pilot in the world can't succeed in a bad airplane, but give that pilot a great airplane like the P-38, and they can do the impossible. The Lightning also reminds us that mockery means nothing if you can back up your design with results. German pilots laughed at the twin-engine American fighter until it started shooting them down. Then they stopped laughing and started running. The P-38 proved itself in the hardest test possible, combat, and it passed that test with flying colours, becoming one of the most successful and feared fighters of World War II. The fork-tailed devil earned its nickname through blood and fire, through countless missions over hostile territory, through dogfights and ground attacks and impossible rescue missions. It earned its place in history by doing what it was designed to do: fly higher, faster, and farther than anything else, and deliver devastating firepower exactly where it was needed. The P-38 Lightning wasn't just an airplane. It was a weapon that changed the war, a tool that enabled incredible acts of courage and a symbol of American innovation and determination. When the last P-38 pilot dies, and the last flying Lightning is finally grounded, the legend will remain. Children will read about the mission to kill Yamamoto and imagine themselves flying low over the Pacific, hunting the enemy's greatest admiral. Military historians will study the P-38's combat record and marvel at what it accomplished, and aircraft designers will look at Kelly Johnson's creation and see proof that thinking differently, taking risks and pushing boundaries can create something truly extraordinary. The twin-engine fighter that everyone mocked became the fork-tailed devil that everyone feared. That's the legacy of the P-38 Lightning. That's why it matters. That's why we remember.